Thank you once again, everyone. And now I'll be presenting the second part of my presentation. So please let me share my screen again. Can you see my screen? Is it okay? Okay, so yes. Yeah. So still we are in chapter 2, the human fall. And this time we will be talking about the consequences of the human fall. So, yeah. So we know that God's original design when he created Adam and Eve is that man will actually live for the sake of others, where the desires of the mind or the desires of the conscience or what we call the spiritual desires, seeking for truth, beauty, goodness, and love becomes number one. It's the priority, and the individual desire purpose for the individual, which is like eating, sleeping, drinking, having sex, which is basically survival, right, is a secondary. And when this happens through the give and take action between the mind and the body, but the mind as the subject, the mind as the priority, the body is a secondary, and then they unite together, this person naturally lives for the sake of others. So this is God designed us to be like this when we reach maturity, when we reach individual perfection. So when we fulfill the first blessing, where our mind and body united, centered on God, we become a child of God, a character of goodness. Then we are ready to fulfill the second blessing, multiply, which is to become good husband, good wife, and having children, establishing a good family, God-centered family. And based on this, we can realize then uh, an ideal society, ideal nation, and a unified world of peace and happiness will come about. We call this the kingdom of heaven on earth. And then finally, third blessing, where we can take care of our environment and we can live harmoniously with the environment, with nature. So this is God's original plan. However, after the fall of man, it became a big problem. Why? Because the bodily desire became so strong. uh, Satan told Adam and Eve, uh, it's okay to eat the fruit. It's okay to have sex. No problem. You will become more knowledgeable than before, like God. And so Adam and Eve believed in Satan's words. So when they committed the sin, the illicit sexual relationship, their sexual desire, their bodily desire became very, very strong, and it became now the priority of their lives. And the whole purpose, which is seeking for the truth, beauty, goodness, and love, becomes secondary. And man became selfish, living for myself, living for the individual purpose, living for survival, material desire is number one. This happened to man. And then the spiritual aspect of man became dialed. The spiritual senses become dialed. And they cannot, how do you say, function properly as a spiritual being. So this becomes a tragedy in the history of man. Man became selfish. So what is the consequence of man becoming selfish? Which means the private desire, the bodily desire became up or become number one, and the mind's desire, the conscience, spiritual desires, or the public becomes down, becomes number two. The consequences are like this. In human relationships, man tend to what? Prioritize himself over others. And this can cause what? Wars and killings. And also, starvation and poverty will result if man becomes selfish, only thinking about himself, thinking about how to get more profit, more money, and then becoming very, very rich, but does not share it with others. And then many people are poor, and they become more poor and poor, and even to the extreme situation where they die. No house to sleep, no food to eat, and eventually they die. This is the natural consequence of being selfish. So, this kind of selfishness is also the cause of young people today engaging in immorality, drugs, and even alcohol abuse. They want to be happy. I am lonely. That's why I want have to do this. I want myself to be happy. So this kind of selfishness results in what? Immorality, drug abuse, and many other things. And in fact, pollution is also a natural consequence of selfishness for human beings because of this businessman who wants more profit. So what happens? They sacrifice nature just to have more profits, and then they just throw the untreated waste products to the river, to the sea, to the air, and eventually air pollution, right? Water pollution, garbage disposal problems. And this is also the reason why government officials are corrupt. Why there is corruption? Because of selfishness. Because these political leaders wants to benefit themselves, wants to benefit their family more than at the expense of the nation, at the expense of the nation. And so finally, these problems of corruption take place. So its origin is actually selfishness in the individual, where we prioritize the bodily desire, material desire, more than spiritual desires. So when private becomes priority and something public or for others becomes secondary, this becomes a big problem in the family, society, nation, and the world. So, by living for the sake of myself, what? In individuals, it destroys character. In families, it destroys relationships between husband and wife, parents and children, brothers and sisters, and eventually resulting in what? A what? Dysfunctional family. And then in societies, selfishness what? Destroys economies because of this selfish businessmen, and then only what? Thinking about their own profit, but not thinking about the environment, not thinking about the society, about other people, only thinking about their profit. Selfishness destroys economies in nations. It destroys government because of corruption. So politicians tend to only think how they can be elected because I want to be in power. I want to have more control about the nation or others, and I want to have my business really prosper. If I have a position, my business can be better, no placed. And this kind of selfishness destroys governments and causes many problems in society. Globally, selfishness destroys civilizations, killing each other, wars happening here and there. So this very clear. Living for the sake of myself, which originated in the Garden of Eden, when Adam and Eve give priority to the bodily desires, did not follow God's commandment to really strengthen the mind, strengthen the conscience, and practice true love, living for the sake of others, reach maturity, centering on this kind of ideals, but they did not follow it, and eventually it becomes a problem for the not only for themselves but for the family, the society, the nation, and the world. So mind and body fight after the fall. When God gave the commandment to the first man and woman, do not eat the fruit, for on the day you shall eat of it, you shall surely die. They did not follow this commandment from God. And eventually, the body becomes very strong and wants to be subject because they engage in a sexual relationship centering on the bodily desire. And finally, the bodily desire became very strong and wants to become another subject, another positive, another leader, and eventually fight with the mind. So the mind is positive, does not want to give up the position of being positive, but very weak. And so the body controls the mind, fighting always each other. And finally, what? In John 8:44, even our Lord Jesus Christ said, you are of your father, the devil, and your desire is to fulfill the will of your father. This became the reality of human beings. And so, centering on the bodily desires, Satan controls the body That's why St. Paul said in Romans 7:24 to 25, with the mind I serve the law of God, but with the flesh, the law of sin I serve. And then this bodily desire controls the individual and eventually controls the family, the society, the nation, and the world. Once the body controls the mind, and the God is what? Expelled. And God cannot work on this earth. So it's just like the conscience is imprisoned, but continuously seeks freedom, and this conscience never gives up. And so man became a being of contradiction, of conflict between the mind and the body. And so human being became what? Slave of Satan, meaning slave of bodily desire. We don't want to do, yet we do. That kind of situation of fallen man. We don't want to take drugs, but cannot control myself. I don't want to smoke anymore. I don't want to drink anymore, but cannot control myself. Become the slave. Became what? The slave of sin, slave of bodily desire, which is actually slave of Satan. Because of this, the first blessing was lost. Man, instead of uniting his mind and body, where God can dwell in him and become the Son of God, he became what? The lineage of Satan. John 8:48. You are of your father, the devil, and that your will is to do your father's desire. So, conflict between mind and body, confused identity, and a very strong inclination to evil. It's very easy to commit sin. It's very easy to commit bad things than good things. And then we need education in order to be good. We need to attend seminar in order to be good. So the problems of addiction, greed, drug abuse, laziness, homosexuality, suicide is uh, present and is very prevalent in the society. Loss of the second blessing. Husband and wife, fallen man and woman get married, centering on selfishness, centering because of this selfishness in the family level. There is problem of divorce, criminality, sexual immorality, and then war, violence, corruption, terrorism is there. And eventually it multiplied to become a fallen society, a fallen nation, and a fallen world, a chaotic world of misery and suffering. The second blessing was never realized. Ideal society, ideal nation, ideal world is nowhere to be found. According to True Mother, if you read the scriptures carefully, you will see that the fall of man involves the loss of Adam's entire family. First, the position of parents was lost. Second, the position of children was lost. And Cain murdered Abel. So God's blueprint for an ideal family and a world of peace was lost. The mother himself say like this. And then the third blessing was also lost. So instead of what? The environment, no? In harmony with man, what happened? Many calamities, many diseases, just like COVID-19. Oh my goodness. This COVID-19 up until now is a really very big problem in the world, not only in nations, but in the world. So calamities like earthquakes, right? Typhoon, storms, diseases, pollution, global warming, climate changes. This environmental disaster happened because man became selfish. Man cannot control, cannot dominate the environment with love, huh? But control the environment with selfishness, with the motivation of profit and to benefit only himself. Himself. This became now a problem in the environment because of man, because of selfishness. So, because of this problem that happened in the Garden of Eden, continuously man commits sin by being selfish, by prioritizing the bodily desires more than the conscience, more than the spiritual desire. And this was going on from Adam and Eve up until now in our time today for millions of years. So our ancestors committed a lot of sins. So because our ancestors committed sins, many evil spirits go to us. Right? So we are the people who inherited what? Original sin, hereditary sin, collective sin, individual sin and a lot of fallen nature. So if this is us now, we are actually a being of sins, and also evil spirits try to what harm us at the same time, and these evil spirits are controlled by Satan. So our ancestors committed a lot of sin, and because of that, the spirits of those people that they killed, or they maybe they committed harm, wants to take revenge, not to us, with a physical body living here on this earth. So these evil spirits are actually influencing our emotion, behaviors. And so it's very easy for us to be angry, to be greedy, no? And this results in pain and many kinds of diseases. So these evil spirits are influencing our lives here on this earth. For example, there is a case of a person who killed many people. In the Philippines, we have this kind of news. No, one person killed six members of the family. Six people he killed. So when he was interviewed by the media, no, he was asked, "Oh, you must be very angry to this family. What did they do to you? Why you kill six people?" And then this person said, "No, I don't know this family. I just blacked out. I cannot remember anything. And then when I wake up, I saw already six people die in front of me. Oh my goodness. That means it is definitely a spiritual control and spiritual phenomena. A what? Spiritual, how do you say, influence. So you can become a criminal if these evil spirits continue to be with us, continue to influence our lives, then we can become criminal. Why? We cannot control anger, greed, vices, and this results to murder, robbery, and even rape. So if these evil spirits are not influencing you, but they influence people around you, then you can become victim also, right? And then this can cause misfortune. You can be killed, you can be raped, mistreated, or even harmed by people around you because they were used by evil spirits. So these evil spirits really torture, no, humankind, no, up until now. And they can also what? Cause diseases to you, like a cancer and even atopy by clogging our veins and make our skin rot. This kind of what we call incurable, no, diseases can go to us. There's evil spirits actually, when they focus on our head, they can cause some kind of physical problem like autism, mental disorders, dementia, headache. When they focus on our neck, then thyroid problem, lymphoid diseases, and even you cannot control your lust. No? And in the shoulder and the back, high blood pressure, it can what? It can cause you fatigue. No? You can easily become very tired, and then anger or arrogance. You can easily become angry. This kind of influences of evil spirits in us. If they go to our face, they can give problems to our eyes, to our ears, to our mouth. And if in the waist, it can reduce blood circulation. And then because of that, you will have problem with the spine and the bones and all other diseases. If these evil spirits focus on your chest, huh? Asthma, bronchitis, lung cancer, breast cancer, or even liver cancer can happen to you. If evil spirits controls your hands, then you cannot control gambling, stealing, even smartphone addiction. Oh my goodness. Huh? If it goes to your legs, blood clot at lymphatic nodes and the knees. It can cause problems also in the legs. In the stomach, they can cause diabetes, infertility, gastric problems, greed, financial problems. So you can see, because of these evil spirits going inside our bodies, because of the fall of Adam and Eve, many evil spirits, selfish spirits, no, kill other people, and then these people become resentful. They want to take revenge to us. So they control us. They control our lives, and this becomes a big problem. So how can then we restore our original position where in our mind God will dwell and eventually our mind controls the body, which is God's original design for man? How can we go back to this kind of situation. How can we what? How can we restore this original design of God, given this situation where we have so many evil spirits around and our body controls our mind, our conscience? How do we restore it? How do we unite our mind and body? So, brothers and sisters, look, by pushing the body down, meaning denying the bodily desire, and strengthening the immature mind, then we can become a person that God originally created us to be. How? Look at this. Pushing the body down means we will be doing bowing condition, prayer condition, waking up early in the morning, hard work, even tong ilmudo training is okay, fasting, vigil, meditation, self-control, sexual purity, and most especially attending Chanyang Yoksa session. So by doing this, our body doing this, then we can put the body down, right? And make the body become object. Make this body became what? Uh, what? Not so strong, so that it can give up its positive like position. How about the mind? What shall we do with the mind? What shall we do with the immature mind? We have to make the mind strong. How do we do that? Let's always join Hundukhe, right? What? Putting true parents' words always in our minds, no, in our hearts by always reading father's speeches, true parents' speeches, true mother's speeches, and then love God above all, with all our heart, with all our mind, with all our soul. Attending divine principle seminars, love your enemy, and most especially attend Hyojong Chonbo events and liberate and bless our ancestors. So if we join Hyojong Chonbo events actually, no, if we join 40 days workshop or 21-day workshop in Chonbo, Korea, or in our branch, no, later on we will conduct seminars like that, no, then we can also do bowing conditions, prayer, and then waking up. This all of this we will do. So attending Hyojong Chonbo events and liberate and bless ancestors will really help us make our mind strong and then make our body weak, and eventually we can restore our position. When the mind becomes strong, 3 to 4 times becomes stronger, and then the body becomes weak. Then by doing these conditions, by doing these two kinds of conditions, then we can unite our mind and body. We become a well-balanced, harmonious personality. We become a child of God, and we can naturally live for the sake of others. And our mind become number one, our body becomes number two, centered on God, and we become a child of God, a good person who naturally live for the sake of others. And if we do that, God will dwell in our mind, and our mind controls our body. What will happen? What will happen? Satan will be expelled from us. And if many people, many brothers and sisters do like this, then Satan will be expelled in our family, Satan will be expelled in the society, Satan will be expelled in the nation, Satan will be expelled in the world. And finally, God will dwell on this earth, in ourselves, in our family, in the society, in the nation, and in the world. Adieu? So, we can become a true child of God who naturally live for the sake of others, restoring the original design for which God created us. Our mind and body can unite together, and we can become the person that God wanted us to be. And so this problem of problematic families can be solved. Once we become sons and daughters of God, all of these problems will be resolved, and we can now build an ideal, God centered family by joining the blessing. And then by joining the blessing, our family can become what? Factory of good citizens in the society. In fact, become factory of God's children, second generation, belonging to God's lineage, factory of good citizens in the society. So if there are many good children coming out of good families, what will happen? Now that family becomes the source of happiness and heavenly fortune, and then multiplies ideal God-centered families through the sexual organs. Yes. And then we can build the family, the community that contributes to the development of our country and the world. And that God-centered ideal family is the smallest unit of heaven where God dwells. Yes, brothers and sisters, this is the way that we have to go. This is the way that we have to really do as responsible sons and daughters of heaven. So, CheonBo Works, which are actually the works of the substantial Holy Spirit, our beloved True Mother, will definitely help us and assist us in realizing this. So, all of us, brothers and sisters, let us join our CheonBo events and let us what? Liberate the evil spirits in our bodies, liberate our ancestors, and eventually we can unite our mind and body and build good families and contribute to the building of God's kingdom of heaven and earth, where everybody can become true brothers and sisters. Adju? Whoa, shit. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening. This is the end of my presentation today.